We are going to be the generation that dismantles systemic racism. Powerful words from Martin Luther King Jr.'s granddaughter, who stood in the same place as her grandfather 57 years ago. Yolanda Renee King and thousands of people from across the country walking in the footsteps of those who marched before them, still feeling the same pain of injustice, saying the names of black men and women killed by police officers. This year's march fueled by the national reckoning on race. ABC's White House correspondent Rachel Scott has more from Washington.
They lined up before dawn for a march unlike any the nation's capital has ever seen. Temperature checks and masks, a new generation gathering at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, where Martin Luther King Jr. told the country he had a dream 57 years ago.
No justice, no peace.
This march is a call to action. Their goal is to turn their outrage into long-lasting reform and to keep marching straight to the ballot box on Election Day.
In sweltering heat, thousands of Americans from all across the country marching to King's own memorial, sharing the pain of those who marched before them.
Shut it down!
I came here from Hartsville, South Carolina. I came from Ohio for this march.
It's an amazing feeling that we're in Washington, D.C., from Milwaukee to Washington, D.C.
They walked for 24 days, nearly 800 miles, the same clothes still on their backs.
It's been an interesting walk. I mean, we've been called every name you can possibly think.
Tori Lowe set out from Wisconsin before a police officer shot Jacob Blake, telling me America is in a worse place than it was 57 years ago.
We have to get to a point in America where we address the sickness of America, which is racism.
Jacob Blake! Jacob Blake! Jacob Blake! Jacob Blake!
Blake's father here too, speaking as his son still lies paralyzed in the hospital.
Every black person in the United States is going to stand up. We're tired. I'm tired.
This year's march fueled by this moment of national reckoning on race, sparked by the killing of George Floyd.
I wish George were here to see this right now.
His brother breaking down, his sister taking the mic.
We have to be the change, and we have to be his legacy.
For Allison Williams, that call is a personal one.
I'm watching the tears swell in your eyes. This is very personal.
Yes, I have a son. I had to give him that talk. I had to sit him down to tell him what to do in case he gets stopped. He's been stopped multiple times, and every day I pray that God would put a hedge of protection around him. But it's time, you guys. We've got to vote. We've got to change this country now. We can do it now, but everybody has to take a part now.
Perhaps the most stirring words from the granddaughter of Martin Luther King Jr.
We are going to be the generation that dismantles systemic racism once and for all, now and forever. We are going to be the generation that calls a halt to police brutality and gun violence.
Yolanda Renee King with a rallying cry to the youth of the nation to take up the fight.
We stand and march for love, and we will fulfill my grandfather's dream.
I want to bring in Rachel Scott now. And Rachel, you were at the protest last night outside the White House during President Trump's speech, and you've also spent much of the day at the March on Washington. Give us a sense of the mood last night versus today.
Yeah, and Ariel, those demonstrators that were gathering here today cleared out enough time to where they were not impacted by the massive downpour that we just saw here moments ago. You know, last night as the president was delivering that speech, accepting the Republican nomination, there were chants outside the White House to vote him out. They called it a referendum on the president, and then they were clear to send a very clear message to him and trying to drown out the sound of his speech. Today, we saw a much peaceful organization out here as thousands took to the streets to march on Washington, standing right here on the very steps that Martin Luther King Jr. stood 57 years ago. The thread connecting them both is racial injustice and the calls for equality. Ariel?
Certainly poignant moments there. And Rachel, last night, President Trump noticeably did not say the names of any of the recent victims killed by police. Has he commented on today's march?
No word yet from the president. We know he has a campaign rally today. We will see whether or not he does comment. But there is something ironic here about thousands of people showing up to the nation's capital, wanting to send this message directly to the president and the lawmakers, and the fact that he's not in town. And I heard so much outrage, so much passion from so many demonstrators out here today that say they want the president to say the words Black Lives Matter. Those words are printed outside of the White House in large, bold, yellow letters. They want the president to say the words of Jacob Blake, of Sandra Bland, of Breonna Taylor, of other lives that have been affected by police violence. And they also want the president to understand that when he talks about the unrest here in the nation, to understand the cause of it. And they say that is racial inequality in America. Ariel?
Rachel Scott in Washington in the rainforest. We appreciate you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.